My Pet Slime. Cosmo to the Rescue, Book 6. 10. Scoot. Before I could go anywhere, I had to run inside to grab my bike helmet. It wouldn't be safe to scoot without it. Cosmo needed a helmet, too. I took Dad's off the hook. When I put it on Cosmo, it was practically the size of his whole body. "You'll be extra safe now," I told him.
"Piper, is that you?"
Dad shouted up from the basement. "Yeah," I shouted back. "I had to get something, but now I'm going back outside to play with Claire some more."
"Have fun,"
Dad called.
"Love you,"
Mom added. "Love you guys too," I said. I felt a teensy bit guilty that I was going somewhere without telling them. Okay, more than a teensy bit. But they'd be so happy when I rescued Grandma, and that was all that mattered. Cosmo and I headed outside. I put him on my shoulder. Claire held on to the handlebars of her scooter. I held on to Claire with one arm and Cosmo with the other. He stuck his little arms out from Dad's helmet and held on to me. Claire kicked off the ground on the right side, and I kicked off on the left. We scooted down the street and around the corner. At first, it felt like regular scooting. We passed by people walking on the sidewalk. Since they were walking and we were scooting, it was normal for us to move faster than they were. But then I noticed that we were passing people on bikes and rollerblades too. And pretty soon we were also passing moving cars. They were just shapes that we whooshed past. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Everything all around us was a blur. The people, the cars, the street signs, the buildings. That was how fast we were going. I stopped kicking on my side of the scooter, but we just kept going faster and faster. "Hey, Claire!" I shouted. The wind was so loud in my ears that I could hardly hear myself. "You don't have to kick so fast." "I'm not kicking at all," Claire shouted back. "I thought you were doing all the kicking." "No," I said. "I stopped kicking a while ago." "Then how?" I looked at Cosmo and saw how. "Oh," I said. "It's Cosmo. He was the brightest light bulb last night, and today he's the fastest jet engine." "What do you mean?" "He has superpowers," I said. "He's alive?" Claire asked. "But I thought he'd turn into a blob again with all these people walking and driving around us." "They look blurry to us," I said, "which means we must look blurry to them. I guess Cosmo can stay alive in front of other people if he's just a blur." "Oh, cool," Claire said. "Whee! Whee!" I shouted back. Cosmo made the scooter go even faster. We whipped down the last couple of streets, and in no time at all, we were in front of 321 Quantum Road. Claire and I pulled off our helmets. I helped Cosmo take his off too. There weren't any people nearby. It was just the three of us, staring at an office building. It was big and gray and plain. I bet if Keith Haring were alive, he'd want to paint a mural across the front. Keith Haring was an artist who was famous for his colorful murals. He made lots of plain spaces much more interesting. But Keith Haring wasn't there, and Claire and I were on a mission that didn't have anything to do with murals. The building had a plain gray door with a sign on it that read, Magna Labs. Ring bell for entry. I took some deep breaths to get ready to ring the bell. But before I could, Claire reached out and rang it herself. A few seconds later, the door swung open and a man in a dark suit looked down at us.
State your business,
he said to Claire and me. Cosmo had turned back into a blob, of course. Well, we don't exactly have any business, Claire said. But we...
Authorized personnel only,
the man interrupted. I don't know what that means, I said.
It means you can't come in,
he said.
Run along now.
But my grandma, I started to say at the same time that Claire said, but my uncle. The man didn't wait to hear the ends of our sentences. He slammed the door shut, and I heard him turn the lock on the other side. I pulled on the handle anyway. The door didn't budge. We were locked out. 11. Hello, Uncle Ricky. Claire and I looked at each other. Now we should call my uncle, right? She said. Yeah, okay, I said. Great. She whipped her cell phone out of her pocket. He's a really nice guy. Everyone who meets him says that. He'd never kidnap your grandma. He'd never kidnap anyone. You'll see. She pressed some buttons and held the phone to her ear. I stood right next to her and leaned my head against hers so I could hear whatever her uncle had to say. The only sound was the phone ringing. Ring, ring. When he answers, I'm going to do the talking, Claire said. He's my uncle, after all. He hasn't even answered the phone, I said. Ring, brr.
Hello?
A man's voice said. Hello, Uncle Ricky? Claire said.
Claire, is that you?
Yes, and you'll never guess where I am.
Where?
Here, Claire said.
Here?
Uncle Ricky asked.
I don't understand.
I'm right outside the front door at Magna Labs, she told him. I came with my friend Piper because, well, Piper I blurted out. Plus 2 emails. Grandma Sadie was kidnapped. You better not have done anything to hurt her, or I'll... Quit, Piper, Claire said. I told you Uncle Ricky didn't have anything to do with it. Besides, I get to do the talking, remember? Fine, I said. So, Uncle Ricky, Claire continued, we came down here to rescue Piper's grandma. We rang the bell like the sign says, and the man who answered the door was very rude. You should tell your boss and get him in trouble. But first let us in so we can find my grandma, I said. Yeah, first that, okay? Claire said.
No, not okay,
Uncle Ricky said. Huh? Claire said.
I'm not going to let the two of you in, he said. You shouldn't be here at all.
But, I started.
And another thing,
Claire's Uncle Ricky interrupted.
What happens in Cell 8 is none of your concern. You hear me? Cell 8 does not concern you.
There was a click on the other end of the line. Claire's uncle had hung up. 12. Flatter than a pancake. Claire dropped the phone from her ear. Her face was red and her eyes were shiny. Are you going to cry? I asked. What? No, of course not, Claire said. I never cry. I just get mad. Well, I cry sometimes, I said. I could feel tears building up behind my eyeballs. I blinked 100 times super fast to make them go away, but it wasn't working. I was too worried about Grandma, and a few big fat tears spilled out of my eyes. Cosmo gurgled worriedly. It's okay, boy. It's okay, I said, wiping my eyes. Even though it was not okay. Not at all. Now what? Claire asked. I don't know, I told her. We're right back where we started. Well, not exactly, she said. We started at your house and now we're here, at Mala. And there's something else too. What's that? I asked. Uncle Ricky said that what happens in Cell 8 is none of our business. Cell 8. I bet that's where they're keeping your grandma. It's probably true, I said. But what good does that do us? We can't get through a locked door. Too bad we don't know any ghosts, Claire said. In the movies, ghosts can pass through locked doors. If we had a ghost friend, they could pass through the door and unlock it for us. Ghosts aren't real, I told her. There's nothing that could pass through this door. Except what? Cosmo, I said. Cosmo can pass through a door? Claire asked. No, but he might be able to squish down under it. He's slime after all. I looked at Cosmo. What do you think, boy? Can you do it? He nodded his head. Okay, let's try it. I set Cosmo down at my feet. There was a teensy tiny space. Between the ground and the door, even smaller than the space between the slats of my basement stairs. It seemed way too small for Cosmo to fit. My breath was caught in my throat. Cosmo made himself flat as a pancake again. But a pancake was too thick. He went even flatter. Flat as a crepe, which is a really, really thin pancake. In seconds, he disappeared under the door completely. What if there's someone waiting on the other side of the door? Claire said. Then he won't be able to come alive and unlock it. Oh no, I didn't think about that, I cried. What if they scoop him up and kidnap him just like they kidnapped my grandma? Claire patted me on the back. I don't know what to say. There's nothing to say, I told her. Wait, did you hear that? She asked. Hear what? But then, I heard it. It sounded like the lock on the other side of the door was being turned. Try it, Claire whispered. I pushed down on the handle, and the door opened. 13. 321 Quantum Road. On the other side of the door, Cosmo was waiting for us. He looked just like his round, adorable self again. It was hard to believe that he'd been flatter than a pancake just a minute ago. He reached his little arms up toward me. I grabbed him and held him close. You're a very good boy, Cosmo, I said. He gurgled happily. We looked down the long, dimly lit hallway. In the distance, I heard footsteps coming from the left. We'd better go, Claire said. This way, I said, leading her to the right. We moved very quietly, but very quickly, turning down another hallway and past a bunch of science labs. You could tell they were labs because each door had a sign on it. They were numbered, but I couldn't tell how many there were. They seemed to go on, and on, and on, and on. Some of the labs were empty, but some had people in them. Claire picked up her scooter, and we tiptoed past those rooms. Everything says lab, not cell, I said. Maybe my uncle meant Lab 8? But we passed Lab 8, and no one was in there. No scientists, and no grandma either. We kept going. But I guess we weren't quiet enough. As we passed the doorway to Lab 12, I heard a man's voice say, "Hey, I think there are a couple of kids out in the hall." "No, there couldn't be," another man answered. Claire gasped. "That's Uncle Ricky," she whispered. "I'm glad he doesn't know we're in here or he'd come kick us out for sure," I whispered back.
"Did you say kids?"
a woman asked. Her voice was familiar. But who was she? It didn't matter. Claire, Cosmo, and I walked faster down the hall. We were practically running. Behind us, the woman shouted,
"It's you! I knew it!"
I snuck a look over my shoulder. "It's Triangle Hair Lady," I told Claire. "Plus Uncle Ricky," she said, "and more people too. We've gotta get out of here." Cosmo was just a blob now with everyone looking. Claire placed her scooter on the floor. "Hop on, we'll go faster," she said. I jumped on the back, hanging on to Claire with one arm and Cosmo with the other. But we weren't going nearly as fast as before. Triangle Hair Lady and the other scientists were on our tails.
"I've almost got him," Uncle Ricky shouted.
I felt his fingertips scraping at the back of my shirt. "Faster," I told Claire. "I'm trying," she said. We turned a corner. For an instant, we were out of sight, and that instant was all it took. Cosmo came alive, and the scooter took off like a race car. In a flash, we were at the end of the second hallway and turning onto another. "Good boy, Cosmo," I said. Doors were whipping past us. Everything was a blur. I couldn't tell if we were passing more labs or if one of the rooms might be Cell 8. I thought I saw a room full of ducks. Ducks! That didn't make any sense. This was a building, not a pond. "Cosmo, you're going to have to slow down," I said. "We need to be able to look for Grandma Sadie." But he didn't slow down. Instead, we headed toward, oh no, a stairwell. Going down the stairs on a scooter was going to be a disaster. The scooter shot forward. I squeezed my eyes shut and hung on to Claire, waiting for the crash landing. But we didn't crash. Instead, we bounced down and down more stairwells. At the very bottom, Cosmo slowed the scooter to a regular pace. "Whew," Claire whispered. "I didn't know if we were going to make it." "Good boy for keeping us safe," I told Cosmo. I stepped off the back of the scooter so I could walk a little. My legs felt super wobbly. "Is this the basement?" Claire asked. Cosmo nodded. "Do you think they keep prisoners down here?" she asked. "There's only one way to find out," I said. And I took a step forward on my wobbly legs. 14. Out of here. We walked down 2 deserted hallways that didn't have any rooms that looked like prison cells. When we turned the corner to the 3rd hallway, though, I saw a closed door that was padlocked on the outside. At the bars in it, just like a window in a jail cell. A sign next to the door read, Cell 1. If that's Cell 1, then Cell 8 must be, Claire said. Down there, I said. Let's go. We raced past the doors. Odd numbers on the right, even numbers on the left. Seconds later, I was standing in front of a locked door marked Cell 8. I jumped up to try to see through the bars at the top. Grandma? I cried.
Pipsqueak, is that you?
She answered back. It's me, I said. It's so good to hear your voice.
Yours too.
My friend Claire is with me, I said. And also another friend. Wait till you see him. Well, you might not be able to see him. I'll explain everything just as soon as we break into your cell. I pulled at the padlock. What's your plan to break in? Claire asked. I don't have one yet, I said. I looked around to see if there were any tools I could use to break into Grandma's cell. Maybe I can smash the lock with your scooter? I told Claire. But what if you break it? She asked. That's the point. Not the lock, she said. My scooter. My grandma is more important than your scooter. Claire was quiet for a few seconds. Cosmo reached for the lock and gurgled. You see, Cosmo thinks breaking the lock is more important than your scooter too, I told Claire. I suppose you're right, she said. She pushed the handlebars toward me. Here, I'll hold Cosmo while you do the smashing. Cosmo reached for the lock and gurgled again, louder this time. I know you want to help, boy, I told him, but the door is locked on this side, not the other side. If you slipped under the door, you wouldn't be able to do anything. I handed him to Claire. Cosmo stuck out an arm and swiped at the padlock. Stand back, I told her. I don't want to hurt you guys. I can't, Claire said. Cosmo won't let go. Come on, Cosmo, I said. We've got to break the lock and get Grandma out before those scientists find us down here. I pulled on his arm. I didn't want to hurt him, but I had to get him to let go. Except he wouldn't. His hand was, well, it was stuck inside the padlock right where you'd insert a key. Cosmo's face was twisted in concentration. Then there was a pop sound. The padlock slid open and tumbled to the floor. The door swung open. Grandma!
Pipsqueak.
I jumped toward her and gave her the biggest hug in the history of hugs. She had a bit of dirt smudged on her cheek, and it looked like she hadn't brushed her hair in a while. Oh, I'm so happy to see you, I said.
Not as happy as I am to see you,
she said.
I missed your face so much.
I missed it even more than all the stars in the sky. It must have been so awful in here, I said. Did you get any food or water? Grandma nodded. There's a nice man named Eric who has been sneaking things into me, she said. I can't believe anyone here is nice at all, Claire said. I'm Claire, BTW. BTW means, by the way, I told Grandma. Claire is my friend from school, and that little blob she's holding is Cosmo. You can't tell he's alive, but... Oh my, Grandma said as Cosmo waved at her from Claire's arms. He's alive for you too, I said. That makes 3 people he can stay alive for. Me, Claire, and you. You got the dust on him? Grandma asked. Yeah, I said. How did you know? Eric told me space dust could have some amazing effects, Grandma said. The Eric who sneaked you the food down here? I asked. Yes, she said. I'll tell you everything, I promise. But first, we have to do a few things. Like get out of here? Claire asked. You bet, Grandma said. The stairs are this way, I said. The 4 of us headed down the hallway. I kept looking at Grandma. I can't believe you're really real, I said. I can't believe Cosmo is really real, Grandma said. Me either, I said. Shh, Claire said. What? I think I hear something. We all stayed as quiet as we could, listening. The hallway was silent. I think we're okay, Grandma said. We got to the end of the hallway and were just about to turn to the stairs when someone jumped out. Aha, he said. Oh no, Claire cried. Uncle Ricky! Caught you, he said.